Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Sounds like Conor Benn has found his KO punch again. Now listen, I don't know who is his strength and conditioning coach, but he's been out there training and training hard. And what you keep hearing from Conor Benn's dad is how Conor Benn is in the ring and beating guys who are champions at 160, 168 in sparring, putting it on them. Now, I'm going to tell you, Conor Benn, Eubank Jr., both of those guys are soaked in legacy because it's the two of them fighting. They're soaked in tension. And then you got to understand the bloodline that runs through both of those guys. But I have to be honest, when I start hearing them talk about Conor Benn, putting it on people, hitting so hard, knocking people out, I got to say, hold your horses and let's not take it to the stupid. If we're going to talk about Conor Benn being this wrecking machine that he was before the clomiphene fine, at least come out and give us a bit of context on how he's been able to find his KO punch again. Because since he returned to the sport after the clomiphene scandal, he lost that KO punch, okay? High work rate, he can fight. He can coochie-coo. But he doesn't carry the one-hitter quitter anymore. So to me, when they make these statements, they have Conor Benn stepping back into the spotlight of scrutiny. Now, some people are saying, you know what? It doesn't matter. You know, they feel that Conor Benn, whether he's found the KO punch or not, he's just undersized. He's not going to be able to hang in there with Eubank Jr. And you know what? I'll tell you, same size or not, I want to say Conor Benn can fight. And I understand people looking at Eubank Jr. and saying, well, he got clipped by Liam Smith, right? And if Liam Smith did that to him, what's Conor Benn going to do to him? How about this? If Liam Smith fought Conor Benn, Liam Smith would beat Conor Benn. Okay, so obviously when Eubank Jr. fought Liam Smith, Roy Jones was training Eubank Jr. He had him. Eubank Jr. was in there doing stupid shit. Hands down to his knees, putting his face out. He was doing everything to get knocked out. I remember watching that fight thinking, oh, Eubank Jr. is taking it to the stupid. It's like he wants to get knocked out. And then he got hit and hurt, and then he got hit with an elbow. Okay, so we got to be real about what happened to Eubank Jr. in that Smith fight. He got hit with an elbow, but the punch did hurt him. But when it comes to Conor Benn, man, you know, this guy's out here putting in work, running 10 kilometers at 5 a.m. in the morning, up hills. I used to run hills. I used to run for an hour and a half. I talk about it on here, especially when I was in Korea. And then in Japan, them hills, man, brutal. That shit is brutal, man. And coming back down was just as bad because it's so steep. You can't just run back down the hill. You got to be very careful coming back down. That's how steep the hills were I was running. But you know, Conor Benn is out here putting in that work. He says, look, people can think what they want, say what they want. I'm the one getting up at 5 in. I'm the one putting the work in. So Conor Benn is definitely looking to come in shape. But they won't disclose if he has a strength and conditioning coach and who it is. But they're just talking about how his father was more of a fighter, wasn't so technically skilled. Conor Benn definitely has more skills, has the better punch selection, where his dad was just looking to fight. And how his father, Nigel Benn, came from an army background. So the discipline that he had in him, he instilled that in Conor Benn from young. And that with that alone, Conor Benn should be able to get in the ring and put the bing-bings on Chris Eubank Jr. Now, I don't know if I want to buy into all that, but what I will tell you is I believe Conor Benn is putting the work in. I believe Eubank Jr. is putting the work in. Both of these guys are in the biggest fights of their lives. Nobody wants to be out here, you know, upset, gets in a fight, get embarrassed, especially when you have the father's last names. You got to look at Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn fought. That was a fight where on a second. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Hood champion getting sick again, man. I had to go blow my damn nose. But neither one wants to get upset, wants to get embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? And when you take a look at it, Chris Eubank Sr., when he fought Nigel Benn, of course, he won the first fight. The second fight, even Chris Eubank Sr. said that he felt Nigel Benn deserved the win. But Nigel Benn never got a chance to have a rubber match to see who'd be the best out of three. So they ended up fighting, one win for Chris Sr., then a draw. So this fight in particular, for the Benns, this is the fight where they can finally get a victory. So they're treating this as a trilogy, you know what I'm saying? But I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, deep down, I think Conor Benn and his pops are kind of outsiders. I know some people don't really care for Eubank Jr. Some people don't care for his pops. I'm surprised to see that. He seems like he's a stand-up guy. Always talking about getting some kind of parliamentary protocol and shit. I like him. But I will tell you, man, that when I watch Conor Benn and his pops, I got to wonder, like, what happens if Conor Benn loses? His pops, Nigel Benn, had his own demons he was dealing with, alcoholism, and some other things, right? And a lot of it stems from just boxing. And maybe there's some loose ends there that he wasn't able to tighten up. Maybe there's some demons from his personal life, some bad choices he made. But the bottom line is, when Conor Benn was going through his struggles with the whole clomiphene scandal, he come in to look for his dad. His dad at the time was going through his own struggle, but the father still lent a shoulder to Conor Benn, and Conor Benn would cry and sob, tongue hanging out his mouth, snot running down his nose like a hood champion, and his tongue wrapped around his scalp, his head dragging across his scalp. But it makes me wonder, since they both now seem to be in a much better space, what happens if they lose? Because Nigel Benn, man, you can look in his eyes and see that man ain't right. You know what I'm saying? You can see and look, he kind of cuckoo. He even went on was talking a story about how he had to put his son Conor Benn in his place, where he was saying that they decided to spar when Conor was younger. And he told him that, hey, Conor, you're snoozing on your jab. And Conor told him that he wanted to bring his right hand in. Anyway, Nigel Benn thought that he was being a smartass, so when Conor threw his jab, he countered him with the big right hand. He said the right hand cracked him in his face, ended up chipping his tooth, and blood went everywhere. And he said, that's what you get for coming in here with an attitude. So just for me hearing that the father can have that kind of reaction, I could only imagine if things don't go well between the two, where I can see another fallout. I would hope not, because, Nigel Benn has been right by Conor Benn's side through this whole scandal and where they are now. But my thing is, if Conor Benn takes a loss against Eubank Jr., then Nigel Benn basically is taking a loss. You can see he's invested in this, you know what I'm saying? Like, he is very, very invested, man, and you can see that's why he's kind of encouraging Eubank Sr. to kind of jump on the bus too and let him, the whole family, both families take a ride, and may the best man win, although he feels his son's going to win. But I just tell you, to me, when I see the smiling and everything, I can look beyond a lot of that shit. For both Eubank Sr. and Jr., and Conor Benn and Nigel Benn. And I think we can be misled by all the lighthearted jabs and the father and son kind of bravado and kumbaya that Nigel and Conor are showing. But I also have to wonder, with all that weight that Nigel carried around for years, now Conor's carrying that weight around for years, what happens? Does somebody relapse if Conor Benn takes a loss? Because Conor Benn, look, they say he found the KO punch. I'm like, where? Because, in 2022, Conor failed 2 VADA drug tests, you know what I'm saying? And then that power went and disappeared. So to see him come back now, makes me wonder, you know what I mean? How? Okay. But anyway, glad to see his mental health and family life is in somewhat a good shape, but they just can't afford another positive test. You want to win so bad, he wanted to win so bad in the first fight, he cheated, okay? Now, look, I'm going to just go off of what I know. It's like with Ryan Garcia. Hey, he had a test come back positive. Only he and Victor, only they know what happened. We will never know. We just form opinions. But with Conor Benn, only he and whoever knows, who is behind the testing, knows what happened. But we got to go with that. He's a cheat. Conor Benn can't afford another positive test. There's a lot of pressure and attention will always be on Conor Benn as long as he's involved with any kind of sport, not just boxing, any kind of sport. And he just can't afford that because he fell apart, his dad fell apart. And, I just don't, although they've been able to kind of rebuild each other, I don't know if they're going to be able to rebuild themselves a second time, you know what I'm saying? If things don't go right. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the fight. I think Conor Benn is better than what we thought he was, because he can work, man. He can scrap. It's just the power's gone. You know what I'm saying? So he can say he's here to make a statement. He's in here to put the bing bings on Eubank Jr., but I just don't think hard sparring and rounds of hypoxic training is going to be enough for him to get the victory. I think he's going to need some kind of power, man, to get the respect of Eubank Jr. And I don't know. He can hit them heavy bags all he wants. And they can say how much of a killer he is and how he's beating guys who are 160, 168 and whipping everybody's ass and hurting them and all that. They can say what they want. But the bottom line is, all that needs to show up in the ring, because I'm telling you, Eubank Jr. is working with Jonathan Banks. And Jonathan Banks is a good trainer. But I'm just not sure Conor Benn is going to be able to pull the trigger against Eubank. I just don't think so. Anyway, y'all keep cool. I wish I knew who the strength and conditioning coach was for Conor Benn, because I'm wondering how all of a sudden for this fight he finds a KO punch. He cannot afford to test positive. He can't afford to test positive again. So hopefully everything's on the up and up. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.